There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another amazing episode of People Helping People. I want to thank you all for the amount of support and love and everything that you guys have been throwing my way since I've started this. It's been an absolute epic journey through and through. I've met some of the most incredible people, and we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to grow as a podcast. We're continuing to grow together intellectually. We're learning spiritual things. We're learning ways on how to become better. And so I just want to thank everybody. Thank everybody right now for tuning in, and everybody that has tuned in the past. I am very grateful. But on this episode of People Helping People, we have a very amazing guest for you. I am really excited about this show, but I can't get ahead of myself because before we start, I'm just going to welcome you. Welcome to People Helping People Live. Nice little sip of Joe in the evening. Ooh, so good. So nice. Ooh. Man, it feels good. So again, thank you all for tuning in. And if you guys know anybody that wants to be a part of the show, that has a great story to tell, whether they're a business owner, a musician, an artist, or if they've just been through some things, let's get them on the show. Let's talk about it. Let's share some wisdom together. Everybody's got a story, and everybody is deserving to be heard. And so go ahead and DM me on Instagram if you would like to be a part of the show at People Helping People Live. You can see the little banner running down here, or you can go over to the YouTube channel. See, it's all backwards for me. The YouTube channel right here, People Helping People Live. And again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining us. And today, again, we have an incredible guest for you guys. You know, there's not a lot of people in this world that wear as many hats as our guest today. He is a jack of all trades, and he has a big announcement, some things he's been working on. And I don't know if I call him the vigilante, if you call him the author of our era, if you call him the strong man. I mean, like I said, he wears so many hats, and I am just really excited to sit down and have a conversation with our friend, TJ Brown. Welcome in, my friend.
Hey, man.
Howdy.
That was some introduction, my friend. You're bringing the energy tonight. I love it.
Yes, sir. Oh, man, it's so good to have you. So for the people that don't know, tell the people who you are. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. So again, my name's TG Brown. I am an author. I'm a full-time detective and a CrossFit athlete. I'm also a defensive tactics instructor. So I teach various martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and Krav Maga are the main ones. And then I teach verbal de-escalation skills for police officers as well. So, like if we get in an incident with somebody that wants to be violent, I try to teach people to use their words before resorting to using physical restraints or anything like that. So yeah, that's what I do in a nutshell. I've been writing for about 2 years now. I've published 3 books, 2 crime thrillers, and this one here is my first Western that just came out on Father's Day. I dedicated this one to my father, which is why it came out on Father's Day. Grew up reading Louis L'Amour, watching Westerns with my dad. We really bonded over the Western genre, so I wanted to do this type of book for him. And yeah, I guess that's me in a short little couple minutes, but yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. Welcome to the show. We are excited to have you here, brother. And you know, I think that I was kind of selling you a little short there by saying that you wear a lot of hats because, I mean, more than what I thought. That's incredible. You have you've taken a lot of turns in your life and found new pathways, and you said you've only been writing for 2 years, and you have how many published books so far?
3. Yeah. So I'll actually, I think it's 2 years in December. So about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. I've always been writing. I just haven't published anything. I think since from a young age, I had a really strong passion for it. Storytelling, whether it's books or TV shows or movies. I mean, that was my stuff. I was always on for that. You know, those were the things that inspired me from a young age. And so, yeah, no, I'd always been doing it. I finally got the courage to do it, though, to actually try to publish a book about it, like I said, a year and a half ago. And that one actually published on my mom's birthday. So yeah, so it was kind of a full circle journey, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And I kind of want to, peel back the curtains a little bit and get to know you a little bit better as a writer, because I think that when somebody like the outside looking in is looking at somebody that has published books, it seems like such a daunting task. And for a lot of people, writing is a form of therapy. Like myself, I'm a musician. I use the guitar as therapy, right? I
Yeah.
use, just sitting down. It's like a way to me to get into this. Gosh, I want to just call it like a focused state, right? Just kind of tune out the world. But when you said that you were younger and you started writing, how did that start to evolve over time into actually becoming a published author? Like, was there a shift, or were you writing full stories? Was it more journal entries? Kind of walk me through that a little.
Yeah, so I think when I was a kid, it was definitely like short stories. I had a lot of energy, I
You
still
still
do,
do.
and I think that's positive. That's pretty much why I have so many hats that I wear, because it keeps me focused, keeps me out of trouble, all that stuff. And but yeah, so when I was a kid, I was always that one kid that was writing stories far too long, because I was so invested in my own story, and my teacher had to tell me to stop writing. And I liked doing that. And then I think as I got older, I wanted to experience things before I published any books, because I knew I wanted to be like a fictional crime thriller writer, and all these types of stories that inspired me. But I wanted to go out and live. I wanted to uh, see what it was like. So if I ever did follow this author journey, I would have this like real life experience. And so I had like three missions in life. I wanted to be a police officer, I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to be a professional athlete. Um, so football was my first passion, and I, was not good enough to make the NFL. So I pivoted and ended up doing CrossFit, and then I ended up being a police officer when I turned 21, and experienced a lot of things. And I think as I became a police officer, you experience a lot of things along the way, right? Some good, some bad, and you end up finding ways to deal with it. And of course, it was natural for me to go to writing, and so I journaled through that time,
Mm.
just really kind of getting it out, getting those emotions out in a healthy way. And so then once those journals, kind of reached the end of their usefulness for me, I pivoted back to wanting to go back to writing stories. And so then I wrote my first book, Tribal Honor, which was loosely based on a real case that I had. And I created a fictional narrative around it, and just blended these elements. My knowledge of martial arts, for example, I'd use that into these fight scenes to really choreograph them very realistically. And
Mm.
then the police procedural stuff, even though it's a fictional thing, it was very real. Like I had a very realistic take, even though it was fictional. But I wanted it not only to be real and maybe educational to some, but I wanted it to be entertaining at the same time, right? Because those are the best stories. Like for me, anyways, those are the stories that shaped me. Where I was like, dude, I was like that. Not only did I absolutely was just floored with entertainment, I've learned something from this movie, right?
Mm.
And so that's what I want to do with my books. And so yeah, and then that was pretty much my journey. Now I'm back to writing books. I don't really journal anymore, because I think writing the books is just as cathartic for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
That's great, man. So
Yeah.
you took time. At first, it was journaling. It was getting those emotions out on paper, and finding that that kind of wasn't nurturing to a degree anymore. And you took that and realized that you needed these experiences, or were utilizing the experiences that you had to put it towards an actual project, which is really cool. Like you said, a lot of people who are reading, they may have a martial arts background, and they know if somebody doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, right? It's like watching a
Hmm.
movie and you're like, come on, he wouldn't get
Yeah.
out of the Kimura like that, or whatever it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
So your experiences were put on the forefront with these books, and you've been writing since. Now,
Yep.
you got your first book out, and you said what was the title of the first book?
Tribal Honor.
Tribal Honor. Beautiful. And I am just sitting from the outside looking in. I cannot
Yeah.
wait to read these books. You sent me the audio book and we talked about it. Like, I'm like a little old man. I'm like, how do I even go about doing this to listen to a book? But I'm really looking forward to reading them. But that brings us to your second book, correct?
Okay, yeah. The second book is also a sequel to Tribal Honor,
Oh,
and
cool.
that's called yeah. So it's a series, and it's called Jericho Burning. That's my second book, and it's just kind of a follow up to Tribal Honor, and it's also a police story. He's a police officer, and I did some research on that one. It was less real life, a little more fictional storyline, but I actually did research some other cases that happened in the area, and it's also set during the 2020 wildfires. If you
Wow.
probably remember, the wildfires that year were just like horrible along the West Coast. And so I kind of used a real life event, blended a natural disaster with a crime element, and made that into a fictional storyline for my characters to, navigate. So that's the second one. And then my third book is the Western that cut them down that just came out Father's Day.
Yes.
So
And I'm so
yeah,
excited to dive into that right now. And for
yeah.
anybody watching, I want people to go check out TJ Brown on Amazon and wherever else. Here, let me punch you in real quick. While we're talking, I want to put this on the screen and we'll get a little bit of backstory on the new book that's out. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so I have my own website, and it is www.tgbrownbooks.com. We actually sell our copies of the book. So we sell signed copies as well as digital copies and audiobooks. We're one of the only independent authors. Well, I say we because my wife and I do it together. But we are the only independent authors that sell the audiobook as well on their website. So if you sign up at www.tgbrownbooks.com/newsletter, I believe, you can get on the newsletter and get a free copy of Tribal Honor sent to you. It's a digital copy. You get it for free. And then you get on our email list and you stay up to date on all the things that we're doing. Yeah, like for example, like my wife is very involved. She markets my book a lot. She actually did a podcast with me recently where we talked about marriage things. She's a marriage and family counselor. So we talked about all kinds of relatable things in the relationship world. So we have a lot of hats that we both wear, and yeah, so we try to involve people in my website and build a community there. And yeah, anyways, that's the main source of contact for me.
Nice. I love that. I have it there
Yeah.
on the screen for anybody watching. And thank you all for tuning in, by the way. But tgbrownbooks.com. You can find his books there. And I love the fact that this is a home ran business. You and your wife are doing things together, and you guys both are, you guys are working in service of others with your professions as well. And I feel like book writing and putting yourself out there, that's also a service. Let people get the sense of escapism, let them kind of unplug for a moment. And it sounds like with the way that you're writing these books, with your personal experience and being that you've been writing for so long, you're going to give people just that. So now I want to talk about your newest book that you just dropped. It's a Western book. So you kind of took a little bit of a turn in genre, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
I want to know why Western and where does that stem from?
Yeah, good question. I turned to the Western for a couple of reasons. One reason was I wanted to do it for my dad, like I mentioned earlier, and the Western genre had a huge effect on me as a kid. Like one of the main reasons I wanted to be in law enforcement is because I grew up reading stories about Wyatt Earp and like Bass Reeves and these real life lawmen who were just badasses. Like, sorry, I mean, just
Yeah.
men amongst men, right? I mean, they were the gold standard in my eyes. A lot of kids grew up with comic books. I grew up with reading westerns. I
Love
read a lot about Louis L'Amour and like how he lived his life and the stories that he writes. There's people out there who didn't have father figures that learned how to be men because of Louis L'Amour books. Like they're that, you know what I mean? Like they're that impactful. And to me, I think that's I learned a lot about men being men in the Western genre, like how to treat a lady nice, and how to be respectful and courteous, things that are I don't want to say they're gone in today's world, but they are definitely withering a little bit more than they did back then, right? And so yeah, it was something I was very passionate about. Like I said, it was something that always stuck with me. I love the Western genre as much as I like the crime thriller genre, and yeah, so that was why we ended up doing it. So
That's great. Tell me about your earliest memory of the of Western genre coming into your life. Was there like a specific moment, or yeah, was there a specific moment in your life where you're like, okay, this is my thing, this is my jam?
yeah, I don't know. I guess the moment that's coming to mind, it might not be the moment, but this the one
Sure.
I'm thinking of right now was when I was a little kid. My mom, my dad, my uncle, my brother and sister, and I all went and watched that Kevin Costner movie, Open Range.
Mm,
And I watched that in the theaters, and I was this little kid, just bright-eyed, watching this showdown at the end of this guy just kicking ass, and I was so invested in the characters and just like the theater experience. There's nothing like it when there's a good movie, right? And
right.
especially when you're a kid. And I just remembered that was like the moment for me. It's popping out in my mind that I was like, man, Kevin Costner is the man in this movie. And then my dad was like, yeah, if you like that, you should read these Louis L'Amour books, And then so I started reading these Western books, and I was like, yeah. And so I just got really into it, and it's obviously stuck with me because here we are today. But yeah, so I'd say that was probably it. Kevin Costner, which is not the usual answer, right? I think it's like Clint Eastwood usually, or John Wayne, right? Which I love those too, but I have to say, Open Range. That's the one that always comes to mind. That showdown at the end is just so good, man.
I
So
love
good.
that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Richard Elliott says, "Great, I love Louis L'Amour." So you got fans of
Oh,
Louis L'Amour in there as well.
awesome, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
Louis L'Amour's
So
the man.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and when you are writing a book, are you thinking, I mean, obviously you want to paint pictures, right? And this kind of started in the cinema for you when it came
Yep.
to the Western genre. And you're writing to allow people again to get that sense of escapism and kind of come into your world that you're creating for them. Are you thinking about this like two steps ahead to maybe hit a screen one day? Like, is that a goal or a dream or an aspiration for you?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I would say that like it would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like I would not be upset. When I write a book, I just hope that people read the book and it impacts them, and that's enough for me. There's a lot of work that goes into putting a book out there, and I hope that they get the same feeling from my books as they do in cinema or any other type of storytelling or art experience, right? Like you said, you mentioned music, and that's very like you're telling stories through music, and it's kind of like that, where it's like you hope people still get that same feeling in just a different way, right?
Right.
And so that's what I hope ultimately. I hope that people can pick up my book, put it down when they're done, and they're like, wow, that was awesome. Like same feeling I had walking out of the movie theater, right? Like, and then maybe they hope that it becomes a movie because they want to see it in live action, like that's my hope. And I hope that like when I write these books, I kind of write them with cinematic flair, I guess, where they're short, quick chapters, so they end with cliffhangers, like the end of a Netflix episode, and you just
Oh, I
keep the
love that.
pages. You know what I mean? It just because like books when they have longer chapters for my ADHD brain, man, like I get lost. Like I need quick chapters that kind of keep me invested, and so I try to give that to other readers too because this is what I like personally. And like I said, it gives it more of a cinematic flair, like the end of an episode, and you're trying to go to bed, but you're like, I got to do one more. You know what I mean? And that's
Yes.
what I try to do with these books. So
That's great, man. And I
yeah.
I know that's going to resonate with so many people because I know everybody's read one of those books where it just carries on and you're like,
Oh
"Okay, when is the
yeah,
chapter over?" So, I
yeah,
love to
yeah,
hear I love to hear that you are catering to the people like myself, and it sounds like you're the same way, It's like you want fast action. You want to be able to be excited by the end of however many pages you're going to read and
yeah,
have those cliffhangers to keep going. So let's dive
yeah,
into that. I want to
yeah.
take me through your book. Let's hear a little bit about it, and yeah, why don't you unpack that a little for me?
Yeah, so Cut Them Down is a Western thriller, I would say, and it's about Sheriff Everett Wallace and Deputy Jake Reeves. They are lawmen in the small town of Shannon, Oregon, which is along the Alsea River near Corvallis, Oregon. Kind of a different setting because it's in the Oregon wilderness. You know, most Westerns are kind of down in Texas, maybe your area, Arizona, right? And I think that those are definitely where most Westerns are, right? And then this one is in the Pacific Northwest, and they get this case. There's a homicide that happens, right? And it's a heinous homicide. They go and they interview people, they make an arrest, and they realize after they arrest the suspect, it might not be the right guy. So now, you know, back then, if you were sentenced to a crime like that, you were probably going to hang, right? And so it's a pretty serious deal. So then the question becomes for the two lawmen: do we pretend that we don't know that this guy didn't do it? Because if we admit to the town we arrested the wrong guy, that could be bad for us, right? And so there's that that kind of selfish need within a lot of humans. And then or do we do the right thing? Do we do the right thing? Do we try to make this right? Do we try to find who did this, no matter what the cost is? And so that's kind of where we go. And then, you know, it's a mystery with a lot of twists and turns. There's betrayal, there's love, there's redemption, and there is a heart-pounding final showdown that people, I hope, enjoy, because I put a lot of work into the finale of this book. Probably the most visceral Western you'll read. You know, the way I wrote it, I wanted the action to be like stuff of Viking folklore, you know, that medieval warrior ethos that the lawmen, because I think they did possess that, right? We just don't see that much in the Western. They're usually clean cut, you know, looking good. And I'm like, that's probably not what they were like. You know, they were men that survived the Civil War, you know, a horrible, horrible war. And that's what that's what the book's about. And these guys try to do right. Some of them go about it differently than others. And yeah, there's various characters. I'm actually pretty proud. I think the Western genre doesn't really focus on female characters too much, but I had a female character or two, actually, both of them really emerge into these like female protagonists of the story, which I'm excited for female readers to read, because I think when they see a title like Cut Them Down, they think it's just going to be full of testosterone, which there is plenty of that, but there is a couple female characters that I was very proud of, and they were a couple of my favorite characters to write, actually. So anyways, I'm rambling about it now. You got me rambling.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
No, it sounds so good. I think you deserve one of these. Ladies and gentlemen, T.G. Brown, Cut Them Down is his newest book, and you can find that on tgbrownbooks.com as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. And there's all different ways that you can consume it. There's the audio book, we have the physical book, and reiterate all the different ways that people can consume the book if they want to check it out.
Yep. All it's available on all platforms. The audiobook, we were joking about how you like the paperback, but the audiobook, the narrator's Joe Cassidy, and dude, this dude crushes it. Like, he's a Broadway actor in New York, and so he can do a lot of different voices and roles like flawlessly. When I was listening to him, he has like a New York accent with one guy, he has like a Virginian accent with another, you know, and then he does female. I mean, and he's just so flawless. It sounds like multiple people are talking, but it's all him. So if you're an audiobook person, I really tell people, like, he is top tier. He's top of his game, and I was lucky that he signed on to do it with me, because when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, because my dad's a big audiobook guy. Like, he was listening to audiobooks before audiobooks were cool. Like, he had the cassettes, dude. Like, he was like, you know, back when they popped in the cassette, they had to pull out the disc and get a new one. He was listening to audiobooks back then, so I was really happy with how that turned out.
That's great. Nice. So yeah, they can get the audio book, they can get the physical book, and I'm going to be ordering all three of your books via paperback, and because I want to come back and have another conversation with you, right? After I feel as though these forms of art are a window into somebody's mind in one way or another, because you're painting this picture. I'm seeing your art in a specific light. And it's really exciting to see, you know, people that in my age group that I've grown up with and been around doing these exciting things and making impacts. And, you know, I do want to grab a little bit of wisdom from you, because there are people, again, that are out there journaling right now that may consider writing a book. And do you have any words of wisdom to anybody that might want to turn their journalism or maybe just their storytelling into an actual book and kind of walk them through the process?
Yeah. First of all, dude, I just want to say thanks for supporting the books. Like, I hope you enjoy them when you get around to them. It means the world to me whenever anybody reads a book or any purchases any of my books. Like, dude, I hope anybody listening in, you, Alex, like, dude, it's the world. It means the world to me. But as far as words of wisdom, is with journaling, I say that I always tell people if you have an idea for a story or a scene, like save that, write that somewhere and keep it somewhere. If you don't know how to create the story around it, at least have it saved somewhere. Um, and that way you can outline a story around this idea that you have in your head. With people journaling, it's a therapeutic exercise, right? That's been around for a while. And I always tell people just keep doing it as long as it makes you feel good. Keep doing it. Is if it starts to feel like work, that's when I kind of stopped because it was like it's not helpful anymore. Like I need to write stories. I want to write books. I want to share this with people. It's kind of, and that's what I told people when they journal. It's like if you don't want to share it with people, that's yours. You keep it, you hold on to it, and that's fine. But if you're getting to a point in your life where you're like, I want to share some of this, I want to open that window to like you're saying, like art with storytelling, people are going to see a side of you. And that's ultimately what changed for me, is that I was like, I'm okay with people seeing what's in here. Like I spent a lot of time being closed off, with being in law enforcement. I think that trains your brain to be like, nope, you're closed off to the world. You're shielded, right? Because that keeps you safe. You're like, nope, you don't want to be vulnerable in any shape or form. And I had to really get over that. And I think when the love for trying to get stories out there overrid that, that's when I decided we're doing this. And so I took those journals, planted the idea, and then I would outline a story chapter by chapter of how do I make this work in a fictional storyline, from anywhere from like outlining what the characters should be like and their character dynamics should be like, and what character arcs are going to go where. Like, are they going to start good and go bad, or are they going to be bad and become good by the end of the story? Things like yeah. And so like I said, I always tell people, just don't rush yourself. If it's kind of like if you were in therapy, you don't want to tell everybody what you're going through yet, because when you're gonna write these books, people are gonna see your soul. Like they're gonna feel what your pain is and all that. If you're not ready for people to feel that, then don't do it, and that's fine. Don't rush yourself because you think that's what you should be doing or whatever. Because I think in this world with social media, we definitely get pressure, right? We see somebody else doing something and we're like, I know I do it all the time. I see somebody bench pressing 1,000 pounds and now I feel like I got to go do it. I can't take a rest day, right? And so I always tell people, like, no, that's not the way. Go at your own pace. It's you versus you. And that's, I guess that's my words of wisdom. And being okay once you get into that story mode that you want to share, being okay with being vulnerable. Like you said, that was a huge hurdle for me, dude. Like that, just like my wife's a marriage and family counselor, and she really helped me turn that switch of like, you're no longer this sheepdog. You have to be like a normal human being and interact with you, and that was really hard for me. And I know when we met, I think I was better at it. And then years went by of more police work and more kind of rigidness and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is not me. Just let them see you. And so I did. And it was scary. It was so scary. That first book, when it came out, I was like, man, what if people think it's terrible? What if they think I'm a terror? Because you write these scenes about like horrible, like, right? You have to have villains in your book, so you're writing like horrible scenes with villains, and they're gonna think I'm a crazy person, But like I said, ultimately, when you love something, you're willing to do anything and put yourself out there in any way. And that's when you just got to go for it. You got to put those fears aside and just go for it. I think that if you like what you're writing, you're not so indifferent that you're the only person on this earth that's going to like it or resonate with you, right? And so that means you're going to have an audience or readership, and that means you should go for it, in my opinion. Because if it affects one person, dude, just like your music, if it affects one person in a positive way, like 100% worth it. Like I don't care how much work it is, it's so worth it. And so yeah, anyways.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, and really well said. So yeah, if anybody out there is looking to write, I mean, essentially getting over the fear of, and I had this conversation on my last podcast, and Ryan Adams is actually in here. Rizzo's in here. And we discussed, being a man and having this shield up and holding this, gosh, it's bearing a weight of the world in a sense, and having to just grit your teeth and be okay with being that man and holding up the shield all the time and not letting things penetrate. And there is a sense of vulnerability when it comes to art forms, whether it be writing or music or art, actual art, your painting, whatever it may be. And that's it. Yeah, it's overcoming those fears of allowing people to see inside. And it's much easier said than done, but taking that leap is such an important thing. And I think people should take that home and let that sink in and find something that in your life maybe you are fearful of as of right now, that that once you get over that hump you could conquer and feel good about. And take a moment. And it may not be writing, and it may not be producing music, but if you're at home sketching in your sketchbook, try and put that out into the world, see what kind of response you can get, and it may not, like you said, you never know.
Hmm.
People could look at it and just be like, well, that's trash, and you know what, that's okay, because you took the step to put it out there. And
Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is taking those chances, taking those risks. And thank you again for sharing that, because that is really important. And I hope that a lot of people at home are looking at something in their life that they know they need to take a step towards, or are scared to do so, and are taking that first step.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah. I
also
think.
want, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I think art is subjective, right? Like I think that's been a saying forever, right? And like you're saying, like someone might look at your art and not like it, and like you said, that's okay because you're not so indifferent. Like I don't know where I heard that saying, but I think another author says that all the time. He's like, you're not so indifferent that you're the only one that likes your own story. Like
Mm,
there's somebody out there. Like human beings relate on so many levels, right? So yeah, get it out there. Like you said, you're gonna find people that your message resonates with, and that's a truly special thing. And then you build this community of people that you never would have built before. That was one of the coolest things about this author journey for me, is I met so many people, built so many relationships with people that I never would have otherwise, because I would have had that shield up. Like you said, I would have continually just been in my cave, man, just like working out and going to work and coming back home and doing nothing. And I think that I wouldn't have had a fulfilled life doing that. So
yeah. Yeah. Well
yeah.
said. Well said. Yeah. And I also wanted to touch on too, because so you're taking these chances, you're beginning to write this book. Well, I'm going back to the first book, right? You're taking
Yeah.
that leap, that first step, you're fighting those fears, and you've decided, okay, I'm going to take these experiences, I'm going to take all this journaling, and I'm going to put it to the test and start creating characters and finding a story where there's climax and hurt and strife and struggle and triumph and all these great things that make a book a great book. And I want to know that if there was a special headspace that you would go into, or did you have a ritual when it comes to writing that book?
Yeah, I think it kind of changed over the years depending on what my schedule would be. But yeah, sometimes I would listen to music, just like that calming meditation music if I was writing. But like it depended what scenes I was writing too. Like if I was writing an action scene, I kind of wanted to have something that would pump me up a little bit and get me in the mood for it. It just depended. Sometimes you write funny scenes, sometimes you write fun scenes, sometimes you write love, romance scenes, sometimes you write haunting, horrible things too, right? And so it just depends. There's definitely scenes more, and probably in all my books, honestly, because I write in a very visceral, gritty way where I want it to feel real. Um, but with that, I like to also have good payoff to balance it out. Um, so the payoff parts I really love writing. Like that's where I'm like, yes, this is what I want. This is what everybody wants. This is what I want. But to have that, you have to have the other stuff too, to balance the world out, because I'm writing an authentic real world stuff. I think that um you can't pull any punches, right? You have to,
Mm,
if you pull punches from the bad stuff and then you give all the good payoff stuff, it doesn't land as well, because then they're kind of like, oh, okay, so these characters, these things in the story, it's just all going to work out for him and it's all going to be grand. So experiencing some traumatic things like I have, on the job and whatnot, I had to kind of look myself in the mirror writing these scenes to make them feel as authentic as humanly possible. And I mean, dude, like it was emotional. It was really hard for me. I mean, even in the Western, I still have emotions that I'm infusing into these characters through some of these events, because I want them to feel real. I want people to connect with me as an author and my character, therefore connecting to my characters and story. So I
Mm.
have to be vulnerable in that way, and I don't want to. Trust me, like that shit is uncomfortable, bro. Like I am not. I don't want to do it, but in the end, like I said, I want to have that open range payoff by the end that really resonates with the reader. So you have to have these ebbs and flows and that the flow to the story to make those pages keep turning. And so, so I think that like I take more breaks when I'm writing those scenes. And then when I'm writing the big payoff scene, I sit down and I'm probably writing for 3 hours straight because I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm
Yeah.
visualizing it like a movie, and I'm just into it. And so it just depends. Like if I get on a roll, I stay with it. If I'm kind of stuck, I walk around, let my mind get free. You know, sometimes I'll walk the dog, maybe do a workout, something to free my brain because I'm like, something's not getting out that should be. The brain's a weird thing. You know, the conscious mind works so oddly. I can't tell you how many times I've had a dream about something and then it ended up in a book, and I don't know how or why that happened. It just did. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's a clinical term for it that I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's very interesting. And I think when you open yourself to that part of you, because we all have it, you start, it's really exciting. You know, it's really cool. You know, you get into these things. So yeah, like I said, I've kind of adapted this philosophy, just like let it come, don't force it, and just go with the flow. If it's flowing, ride that
That's
wave until
great.
you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, to put that much, I mean, with your life experiences, to put that much vulnerability into these pages, into these characters, I, gosh, I know for myself, sometimes just sitting at a microphone with tears running down my face, trying to scream out a song, like I completely resonate with that. And
Yeah.
it's more exciting for me to jump into a book that I know that has an author behind it that is, is unveiling themselves in that way. They're showing a true side of who they are as a human being through characters and through
Yeah.
fictional stories, which I think is really incredible. That's cool. That's inspiring to me too. Like it makes me want to sit down and start writing. But it also brings me to a couple of other questions, and maybe you just answered this, but what is the hardest part of writing a book?
Oh, well, the hardest part, there's a couple things I could go on with this. Obviously, the scenes I just talked about, the tough scenes, that you're kind of reliving certain traumas, and whether reliving those traumas, even if it's not exactly the way it happened in your real life, it's still there, right? And so that's definitely hard, especially the way I write. But I would say one of the hardest things to get over is your first draft of your book is never good. Like it's gonna suck, and you just have to be okay with that. And then not only that, you might do like 4 or 5, 6, 7 drafts, whatever, and then you send it off to an editor to be like, okay, I've really worked hard on this. It's gonna be good. And then they send it back to you, and they're like, nope, you got a lot of work to do. You
Right.
know, yeah, and so yeah, I had to go through rewrites and all kinds of things, and you just, like I said, being very open to criticism, because that's what an editor's job is. They shoot you straight and they tell you, hey, this isn't working, this is why it's not working, and you need to hear that, even if you put your heart and soul into it, because that's ultimately going to make the story better. It's going to resonate with readers more.
Mm.
And they're seeing it from a completely neutral stance, whereas you're not going to see your own story through a neutral stance. You're going to just sit there and be like, it's great, it's the best thing ever. Like that's kind of, you kind of have to tell yourself that if you're going to
Yes,
commit
you
to writing a
do.
book.
Yes, you do.
And so anyways, so I'd say that's definitely was probably the hardest thing, because I was like, man, I just have to be okay with this sucking until the very last draft of the book, which is like 30 drafts of this thing, you know. But I'm a perfectionist, and I think a lot of authors are, right? They want it to be as good as it can be. And yeah, there's times where you gone through it 30 times and then you find a typo and you're like, how did that make it in there? How did this typo make it in there? But yeah,
It's
ultimately
really
it's all worth it.
so it's really a much lengthier process than you ever anticipate.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. But like I said, it's all worth it.
Yeah,
When you love something, you make it work no matter what, and
that's
that's kind
great.
of been the goal.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so the second part of that question And thank you for sharing that, by the way. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You know, and I
Yeah.
would never know that having never read a book. So the fact
Yeah.
that there's 30 drafts and, you know, us as artists are just absolute perfectionists, I can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the second part of this question is pertaining to those moments where you don't feel any inspiration. Maybe you're writing something, you have a beginning, a middle, there's this big climax, and then all of a sudden you're stuck. You're sitting there with your pen in your hand and your coffee to the side, and you're trying different styles of music to listen to or different things to pull inspiration from. How do you get unstuck?
Yeah. So there's a famous author. I'm sure most people know Lee Child. He wrote the Jack Reacher books, and he has this saying. He's just like, truck drivers got to drive the truck.
Mm,
Writers have to write. You know, it's like you sit your butt in the chair and you find a way to make it work, and however long that takes, you do it. And that's ultimately what happens for me, is because again that perfectionist attitude of like, I need to get this done. You know, I need this is if I don't write, I don't want to sound too dramatic here, but like writing is like breathing to me. Like I love it that much. It is something I'm so of all the things that I love. Of all the things that I do, writing is the top. It's the culmination of all the things that I do, and it's the most healthy therapeutic thing that makes me feel whole. And
mm.
so if something's not working, I can't just leave it. I can't. It's like almost like if you left on a bad note with your partner. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to do that. You want to fix it before you go do whatever you got to do, right? And so that's how I feel about writing. And so like I said, it's not the most like articulate answer, I guess, but it's just sitting down and finding a way. Whether sometimes I walk, you know, walking tends to help open my brain up more. Hitting the heavy bag sometimes, you know, until that, like I said, I've had to like stop a workout because I'm hitting a heavy bag, and then it comes to me, and I'm like, oh, and I run to my computer, sign on, sweat dripping everywhere, and I'm like, I type, and sometimes I just type like a note to myself. And then I finish my workout, and then I come back and do it because that way I have I don't lose that train of thought. And that's kind of the things I've learned to do. And once I get that ideas or that flame, you know, it's like, okay, run, you know, don't let that flame go out. It's kind of how I look at it. And so yeah. And
So
I
straight.
see Angela bought a Kindle version, and I just wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think thank you for sharing that. And that's so true. I just want to touch on that real quick because I think a lot of people in here are artists in one shape or form. And yeah, just sitting down and bulldozing through it sometimes is really great advice because I find myself, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I find myself just sitting and getting stuck on one little echo or reverb on a sound, and I'll spend 4 hours on a snare drum, and then
Wow.
4 hours later just wake up out of this mist of, you know, where am I, what just happened, and why am I sitting here 4 hours later working on a snare, you know?
Yeah.
Like nothing got done. I didn't bulldoze through it like I should have. But
Sure.
that's great advice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to
Yeah. No.
touch on some of these comments as well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people joining you. Thank you for everybody that's coming into the chats right now. I appreciate you guys. This is another episode of People Helping People Live. We're sitting down with author TJ Brown. He has his new book out called Cut Them Down, and we are just discussing anything and everything about life and getting to know him a little bit better. And we have Richard Elias in here. We got Angela Coffey. She says it sounds like a great book. I'll check it out. Ryan Adams, he says he loves journaling. Dude, I wish I journaled more. I think I need to in my life. It's just one of those things that I think is super important. Do you want to acknowledge? Can you see all these comments as well as we're going through?
Yeah, I see Angela's. It was popping. They were like popping up on my end, but then they kind of fade away
Okay.
as the show went. Angela, I just joined. Are the three books tied together or three separate novels? Great question, Angela. Yeah. So the first two books are part of a series, and the Western is separate. However, they are in the same universe, believe it or not. Although the Western obviously set about 200 years before the Warren Lawson series, which is my first two books, Tribal Honor and Jericho Burning. Uh, Cut Them Down is kind of like my own reflection on my own life, was that lawmen inspired me, and I wanted the readers to meet the lawmen that inspired my main character, Warren Lawson, because my main character in the first two books, that's kind of what he's kind of like the modern lawman. And so yeah, there's a little bit of connection, and there's also a little bit of Easter egg connection in my Western to the first two books. So if you read the first two books, you'll kind of catch on to the Easter egg, because it's a very subtle piece of dialogue between characters where they reveal one of them's part of the Lawson bloodline, and you don't know until the very end who it is. And so if you were a reader of the first two, you're like, whoa, that was cool. I didn't know that was going to be part of it. And if you're not, it just kind of like, it doesn't change the story in any shape or form. But yeah, so to answer hopefully that answers your question, but it was a good question.
That's great. Thank you for that question, Angela. And yeah, I mean, the fact that you're on the show here, she's about to go camping tomorrow, and she just bought the Kindle version. So that's awesome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you out there. And thank you to everybody that's joining us tonight. This has been super enlightening. TJ Brown, dude, I just, like I said, a man that wears many hats, and we're just scratching the surface on who you are as an individual. I'm going to be ordering these books. I cannot wait to read them. I cannot wait to have another discussion. Once I get through book one, boom, you're back. Let's talk about it. Let's dive in.
And I'm all for it.
Yeah, right. And I really just want to, like I said, I want to look behind the curtains a little bit and see like where the character development kind of came from. Because as you said, this is really, pulling back the curtains on a lot of things that had happened in your life. It's kind of a culmination of personal experiences that you've put into novel form. And so I'm excited to dive in and be like, okay, where the heck did this come from? What had happened here, and really get to know you on that level. And I really appreciate you coming on to the show, and I appreciate everybody that's joined us. And I hope to have you back soon. But before we go, is there what are the goals for you? What do you have coming up? What's going on in your life?
Yeah, so I am going to publish another book. We're going to try to do it by October this year, and that is also a part of my Warren Lawson series. It's a spinoff of two side characters that you meet in the first book. It's these two Native American brothers who get wrapped up in the gang life. So it's actually kind of the opposite end of the law enforcement coin, where these two twin brothers, they're part of a gang called the IPO, and it's a prequel story that kind of tells their like beginnings. How did they get in that life? Why are they the way that they are when we meet them in Tribal Honor and when Warren collides with them? Because they ended up becoming kind of fan favorites of the book. They're not villains, but they're kind of anti-heroes in the book, where you totally like them and Warren are on the opposite ends, because Warren's got to follow the law. He's got to enforce the law. He's kind of black and white in that way, where some people are like, no, that's I'm going to handle this my way, right? And that's kind of what the brothers do, and so they clash. And so a lot of people resonated with the twin brothers, because they were kind of like, yeah, I would, when you read the book, you'll understand what I'm saying. But so now we will do a prequel with them, because I promised myself when I started this, I was going to listen to my readers. And if there's enough of them that are like, hey, we want this story, I'm going to try to make it happen. And so, because it always bothers me when like I'm also a fan of books, obviously, and I'm like, fans are clamoring for something and authors never listen. Like, that drives me nuts. So I kind of like, I'm not going to be that way. No matter what, I want people to enjoy these, right? That's the whole point of telling stories. And so anyways, that's how this one came to be. And so the novella is coming in October. So it'll be a prequel to Tribal Honor. So I guess in the timeline of my 4 books, it would be Cut Them Down, this novella, and then Tribal Honor and Jericho Burning. So yeah.
Beautiful. We're going to have the people on the lookout for that. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, again, man, you're an inspiration. I hope that people out there listening are just taking note. If anything, just take that first step, put yourself out there, go ahead and try something new, or put your art into the world and open up that little bit of vulnerability, because like you said, there is an audience for everyone. And sometimes it's just a matter of finding that audience. And I appreciate my audience stepping in here, watching us, And I appreciate you, TJ Brown, or TG Brown. I keep saying TJ Brown. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's cool. No worries.
I appreciate you, TG Brown, for stepping in and having an interview with us. And I look forward to reading all three of your books, and we're going to double back in the future. And is there anything you'd like to leave with the people before we go?
Um, yeah, first of all, thank you, Richard. I appreciate the kind words, sir. One thing, being an author, one of the main things I always tell people, because, not a lot of people know, but reviews on Amazon are huge for any author. So if you know any authors, I myself, I leave reviews for authors all the time just because I know how important they are. So if you finish the book, please just leave a good, honest review on Amazon. That really helps promote the book the best, just because Amazon is such a big giant in the industry. And so people that don't know me, they see reviews, and that usually gets the word out about the book without having to have a big budget behind you, because like I said, I am just a self-published author. So and again, like, we're talking about honest reviews. I think that people that just leave reviews without reading the book, I think people see through that. So I always say, read the book, and then leave that an honest review on what you thought, and that and also provides feedback for me. I see what people like or maybe didn't like, and so all those things are helpful for an author, because like I said, half the battle is getting the word out there. You write the book, and one author, he relates it to like raising a baby. Like, you don't just have the baby and then stop nurturing it, right? Like, you have to take care of that thing. You have to feed it. And so the marketing part is feeding your baby. You have to feed it, take care of it, nurture it. And so marketing, that's part of the marketing, is trying to gather reviews as much as possible. I think there's a stat that says 89% of books are bought because of people seeing the reviews on them. So super important. And anyways, like I said, if you guys can find it in your hearts to leave those reviews, it goes a long ways. It literally puts food on the table for me as an author. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, go leave your reviews. Go check out his books, tgbrownbooks.com. And again, my brother, thank you so much for stepping onto the show. And everybody joining in and that watched People Helping People Live, we love and appreciate all of you. Go do some good in the world, and we will talk to you on the next one. Deuces.